Imagine if you could travel back in time with your memories intact, choosing between becoming a wealthy, free-spirited millionaire or a wise scholar. How would you want to live your life? This is the story of Charles. On his 21st birthday, his father revealed a secret that would change his life forever. All the men in their family possessed the ability to travel back in time. All they had to do was close their eyes in a closed room, clench their fists, and think about a past event to return to that moment. Charles thought his father was joking, so he tried it in a closet. He clenched his fists and closed his eyes, and when he came out, he was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. The party downstairs was the same as yesterday. He remembered his friend had knocked over the table yesterday, so he pulled his friend away to avoid the accident. Yesterday, a girl who liked him wanted to kiss him, but he was too shy and chose to shake hands instead, leaving the girl disappointed. This time, Charles chose to kiss her, creating a beautiful memory for her. He then returned to the present and talked with his father about how to use his time-traveling ability. His father was worried that Charles might be controlled by his desires, so he advised Charles to use time travel as a tool to live the life he wanted. Clearly, his father's concern was unnecessary. Charles just wanted to have a girlfriend. That summer, Charles's friend Marquisha came to his house. The girl, named Marquisha, had long golden hair and a curvaceous figure, making Charles feel that love had arrived. However, the shy Charles dared not take action. Now, with the ability to time travel, he finally mustered the courage to confess his love on the night before Marquisha was supposed to leave. But Marquisha gently rejected him and gave him a nice guy card, saying that if he had confessed on the first day, she might have agreed. Charles didn't say much but was overjoyed. He found a dark room, used his time-traveling ability, and went back to the day Marquisha arrived. He confessed his love right away. Marquisha didn't reject or accept but told Charles to confess on the night before she left, and she would give him a satisfying answer. At that moment, Charles understood that even with time-traveling ability, you couldn't make someone who doesn't love you fall in love with you. Thus, Charles's first love, which hadn't even begun, ended as suddenly as that summer. Feeling lost, Charles decided to leave home and search for true love in a big city. Charles moved into the house of his father's friend, Jack, a grumpy screenwriter who wasn't good at expressing himself. After a few words, Charles found a job as a lawyer. But in a male-dominated environment, it was hard to find a girlfriend. One day, a friend invited him to a party at a blind restaurant. In the dark, Charles met a stranger. Unexpectedly, a miracle happened. They clicked instantly and agreed to meet outside. The girl's name was Keisha, and Charles was captivated at first sight. Despite her simple and ordinary appearance, her warm smile completely won Charles's heart. He got her phone number, and they planned to meet again. Back home, Charles was beaming with joy, but Jack, the screenwriter, was complaining because the actor had messed up his lines due to nervousness, ruining his carefully arranged play. Kind-hearted Charles decided to help Jack. He used his time-traveling ability, went back to the performance, and wrote the lines on a cardboard. With Charles's help, the performance went smoothly and ended with applause from the audience. Charles wanted to share this wonderful moment with Keisha, but when he opened his phone, he found her number was gone. It turned out that helping Ack had altered the timeline, causing him to miss meeting Keisha at the restaurant. Finally, one morning, he read a news article about an exhibition by an artist Keisha liked. He remembered her saying she would definitely attend. So, Charles went to the exhibition hall every day, hoping to meet her again. After a week, the girl he had been longing for finally appeared, still with the cute hairstyle and warm smile. Charles approached her, but for Keisha, this was their first meeting. They were strangers. To his surprise, Keisha had a boyfriend, leaving Charles awkwardly smiling on the side. Thinking quickly, Charles found out when and where they had met and then used his time-traveling ability to go back. Knowing Charles's interests, he quickly won her over. They went for a walk and rode bikes together. As they walked, they reached Charles's house, where it turned out she hadn't driven that day. Just like that, they ended up together. From then on, they were inseparable, spending every moment together. Mornings, they parted at the subway station for work, and evenings, they reunited at the same station to go home. Soon, Charles met Keisha's parents. Although it was awkward, the atmosphere was harmonious. One day, Charles bought 2 movie tickets, but Keisha wasn't interested, so he took a colleague instead. Unexpectedly, he ran into Marquisha. Charles went up to say hello, but his words made the situation awkward. So, he traveled back in time and pretended not to have seen Marquisha. Unexpectedly, Marquisha approached him outside, and they had dinner together. She even invited Charles to walk her home. Charles hesitated at the obvious temptation, but remembered the summer he was rejected and resolutely turned her down. At that moment, he seemed to have an epiphany. He realized that the one waiting for him at home, Keisha, was his true love. Charles made a decision, woke Keisha, and proposed to her, though she is too tired and half asleep to respond. He time travels to hire a jazz band to play music and approach her more gently to ask her to marry him. She says yes and thanks him for not doing a grand public proposal. They went to Keisha's house to meet her parents and discuss the wedding. They also announced that Keisha was pregnant, giving her family a big surprise. On their wedding day, Keisha wore a red wedding dress and walked into the hall, igniting the atmosphere like a flame. Their unforgettable wedding ended in a storm. Friends jokingly teased Charles, making the scene awkward, but his father steadied the atmosphere, expressing his love for his son, though he felt he hadn't said enough. So, he traveled back in time to add more praise. Soon after, Charles gave birth to a daughter. Suddenly becoming a father, Charles understood the responsibility he had to bear. In the days that followed, Charles lived a very happy life. One day, he realized that time travel wasn't that important anymore. He was already living the life he wanted, so why travel again? Charles's sister had a fight with her boyfriend and got into a car accident on her way home. Seeing his sister lying in bed with injuries, Charles decided to use his ability to travel back in time and pick her up early to avoid the accident. However, she seemed disheartened with life, told his sister about his time-traveling secret, and took her to the party where she met her boyfriend, preventing their meeting and revealing her boyfriend's true colors. When Charles returned to the present, his sister had fallen in love with another boy. But when he returned home, seeing his daughter who looked different, he felt a strange sense of being a stepfather. He quickly traveled back in time to ask his father. His father explained that once you have a child, traveling back to a time before their birth, even with minor changes, could result in a different child. This left Charles in a dilemma: his daughter or his sister. What choice should he make? If you had the ability to travel back in time, but your sister had a car accident, and saving her would mean your child would disappear, what would you do? Charles was puzzled. His wife, Keisha, suggested that although he could change her past, he couldn't change her heart. Why not let her learn to change herself? Charles finally gave up on traveling back to change the accident, choosing instead to support his sister with his wife. Maybe, for pain, companionship is the best medicine. Finally, under the guidance of Charles and his wife, his sister came out of her shadow, smiling again, and his lovely daughter returned to him. Suddenly, Charles thought of the boy. Although Keisha didn't agree, their son still came into their lives. Their life didn't change much, and they remained happy together. Though everyone experiences it, no one hopes it comes too soon. Charles's father was diagnosed with a terminal illness and had only a month left. Because of his children, he couldn't go back to change things. At that moment, Charles understood why his father retired early and often spent time with him, playing ball and having meals by the seaside, watching movies with the family even in the rain. This was his father's happiness journey. Father and son sat together, reminiscing about time-traveling stories. His father shared his time-traveling experiences, how to use the ability for greater happiness, intending to pass on the wisdom.